Thank you so much, Zach, for introducing us. And I'm so excited to be here, so excited to talk to everybody in this panel. As mentioned, Keith could not be here today, but we wish him a speedy recovery. Instead, we welcome Quentin to this panel. Thank you so much for joining us as a last-minute thing as well. So before we get started, I would like for all of us to get to know the panelists a little better. So why don't we start with each of you telling us a little bit about yourself. Curtis, do you want to start?
Sure, yeah. Hey, I'm Curtis. I have an electrical background. I'm an electrician by trade. I have a history working in construction, and I also have done some work on Bitcoin miners in the past, locally here in Vancouver. And what's more relevant here, I guess, suppose, is I, 3 years ago, decided to live full-time in my van. And I've always wanted to, let me back up here. I never saw myself from an early age following the traditional path, you know, getting married, having kids, going to college, like just doing this in a very linear progression. I figured I can deviate here and there. And I used to always look out the window from my parents' house and just see like RVs going by. And I thought, well, why can't I just live in one of those and be free, you know? And then when, in the aftermath of COVID, I realized the importance of mobility. And so that was around the time when I just really made the decision to go all in. And that was around the time that I also went all in on Bitcoin. So I'm sure we'll get to more of that as well. But that's me.
Yeah, Quentin?
Hey, everyone. So I'm not Keith Mukai. I'm Quentin, general manager at My First Bitcoin. I'm French, living in El Salvador, and not exactly a nomad, but I was a nomad for a few months in the last years. And yeah, that's it.
Awesome. Arnold?
Hey everyone, again. I'm Arnold, I'm from the Netherlands. I graduated as a product designer in 2019, September, so before COVID hit. But during my studies, I got into Bitcoin, and I really wanted this to become a bigger part of my life. So once graduated, I just tried to make a living out of it, copywriting, started translating books, many Bitcoin books to Dutch, started just doing what I could do in the Bitcoin space. And as I was doing this, I figured out that this is something that I can do remotely. And that's been like 5-6 years ago now. I've been a digital nomad almost full-time for 5 years, working in Bitcoin. And yeah, that's me.
Awesome. Thank you so much all for sharing. And, you know, while I hear there's maybe not full-time nomads in the panel, but then there's that spread to almost full-time as well. You all spend a lot of time on the road and just traveling different places. I assume that there is like a mindset shift when that happens, because you get to experience a lot. So what would you say is the biggest ones that you personally noticed in yourself? Quentin, do you want to start with that one?
Sure, thank you. Yeah, so I left France almost 4 years ago. It was February 2022 during COVID. Refused to get the vaccine, and basically I had to flee to another country. Thank you. And so I left to travel on my own in Mexico for 6 months, and it turned out I never went back to France, basically. And what changed for me was, like, first of all, physical possessions. Like, you don't really own anything anymore. I left France, and I put a challenge on myself. I wanted to have a backpack that weighed less than 5 kilos, which is not a lot when you leave for 6 months. But it was really, really cool because, for example, I found myself in the desert, sometimes in the northern part of Mexico, running in the desert with all my life on my back, which is quite a freeing feeling, right? So I guess that would be the first change. And after I settled down and started living in El Salvador, even though I wasn't a nomad anymore, I still tried to follow that same principle to own as little as possible and to be able to live on a Bitcoin standard as well, owning my money in a digital format and basically owning just that. So I would say that is the big change for me.
That is very interesting. Arnold, yeah, I see you have a thought there.
Yeah, so for me it started with a curiosity to see the world. And then I also like figured out what you're saying, like, wait, my life is basically I'm owning 12 words in a suitcase. That's all I have. And it also doesn't allow you to buy new things and bring new things with you. So how it changes my mindset, it's funny because it was at the same time that I experienced to be a digital nomad and to have less physical possessions that I also started to get into the rabbit hole, and you change your time preference and you're becoming more like a saver than a consumer. You don't care about buying the newest thing of whatever is on the market, simply because my money doesn't incentivize me to do it anymore. And secondly, I didn't have like space in my luggage to bring out everything that I used to want.
Yes, Curtis, would you like to share a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I would say the biggest mindset shift of living nomadically is having to choose one's own constraints. So I don't believe that you can ever be fully free. Everybody wants to get into some sort of digital nomadery. Everyone kind of, not everybody, but some people aspire to live in a van for freedom or to travel nomadically just to get freedom. But you really have to, you're forced to choose, like the other panelists said here, different possessions that you want to carry with you. You're forced to live in small spaces. You don't necessarily get to control your work schedule. Some nomads might be able to, but I certainly can't. And there's also just things that are out of your control, like borders and proximity to family and friends and community. And so just because you choose to live a particular lifestyle doesn't mean you're going to be free from constraints. But what it does do is it allows you to choose as many of those constraints as you possibly can. You're basically maximizing your ability to choose what limits you.
That is very interesting, Curtis. I've never thought about it that way, but it is very real. I guess to choose is to renounce in that sense. But you all mentioned, reducing your physical possessions, and I think that's very interesting. So in that sense, how do you think that having less physical possessions or being able to choose the ones that are more important to you changes your relationship with money and pretty much that monetary freedom that the average person might have?
Well, again, for me, it was a bit at the same time becoming a nomad and really understanding Bitcoin. I became a minimalist and a maximalist at the same time. And what Bitcoin also taught me is that I value my time much more. When I'm working or exchanging my time into a currency, well, my time is limited, so why would I exchange it for something that can be printed? And once you start to see this dynamic in your own life, you're really going to make different decisions, especially with what you spend this hard-earned money, Bitcoin for me, and what you're going to spend it for and what you want to buy with it.
Okay, I would say money, you can be very, very wealthy without any physical possessions. That's, I would say, the number one thing with respect to physical possessions. Physical possessions weigh you down. Whether you're mobile or not, you are weighed down by possessions. But living nomadically, specifically in my case, van life, you really notice it. If you accumulate too many things, they really get in the way. They make your life non-functional. Like your space, if you fill your space with junk, then you just aren't going to be able to function remotely normally. And so you really have to choose what you want to carry around. And especially with Bitcoin, especially with the world's best money, the best money that's ever existed, you can just accumulate that and be extremely wealthy from a material perspective, but you can also prioritize the things that matter: relationships, community, being able to travel. So it's not all about just saving money and stacking sats. It's also maximizing all the things that you didn't necessarily know you wanted or needed or craved because you were so overloaded with material possessions.
If I may add to that, what changed for me as well, once I started nomading, is that every single month my expenses start at zero again. It's not that I have a mortgage or like a car insurance. Maybe in your case it's useful, but for me, I don't have a car, so why would I need? So like every month again, my spending starts almost at zero, besides of a couple of health insurances and subscriptions, which also helps you to really plan your life differently, because like you don't have to run the hamster wheel to a certain level before you can start earning or stacking sats or live a life. So I feel like I fully agree with you, Curtis, that like freedom is very relative, and it enables you to have optionality and to choose the place where you want to start spending from, and like the level of well, your financial capacity is also giving you more flexibility.
Absolutely.
Quentin, before we move over...
No, not much to add. Very good points, guys. I think to summarize, whether you're a nomad or not, I guess the idea is that you want to own assets and not liabilities, and owning less stuff and more Bitcoin means that in a way, and you're more sovereign.
I completely agree. I think it was very cool to hear, Curtis. You know, you just have your 12 words in a suitcase. That is pretty awesome. But on that note or idea, I would like to ask if there's, any common mistakes that Bitcoiners tend to make when traveling abroad or being on the road regarding their hardware wallets and their keys. And, I don't know if any of you have had an experience that you personally had with struggles in regards to that, but I would love to hear that. I just personally, I can't imagine the uncertainty to have my hardware wallets with me all the time as well. So who would like to start with that?
I can start that one. So personally, I don't carry keys with me. I don't bring my Bitcoin, so to speak, wherever I go. I don't believe that to be a wise decision, but I have the luxury of having physical locations where that stuff can be stored. That being said, if somebody doesn't necessarily have the option, I don't exactly know what common mistakes are. I don't really know a lot of sovereign digital nomads or people who travel with their keys, but if people are looking for advice on how to do it, my recommendation is not to, but if you don't have the choice, then I know there are some wallets that allow you to wipe your seed after you use them, and I recommend, like, if it's important enough, you can memorize 12 words and just have a brain wallet with a passphrase, which is a 13th word at the end, which isolates certain funds from others, just in the event of a $5 wrench attack, which is when someone, confronts you and tries to get your seed phrase from you. You can give them the 12 instead of the 13.
And in case you do travel with your hardware wallet, which is useful when you need to access your money, a best practice is to at least not have all backups with you, and make sure you have a place, like you're saying, whether it's the wallet itself or a backup, whether it's on paper or metal, even better, to have at least one more place from which your Bitcoin is accessible. And I'm not even talking about multi-sigs or difficult, complex ways to set up your Bitcoin treasure, but to not have everything with you in that single suitcase that you only own.
I approach Bitcoin security in a way where I don't have my Bitcoin all in the same place. Just like we have life insurance and wallets to go and buy bread or whatever, we don't store our money in the same places. So how I see my Bitcoin security setup is I own different wallets. I own different buckets, and depending what bucket I'm talking about, I will store that amount of money or this amount of money. And so, for example, in my Lightning wallet, which I use because I live on a Bitcoin standard in El Salvador, I earn in Bitcoin and I spend in Bitcoin as well. Let's say I store $500 in there, and then I have a single sig wallet that I use for bigger purchases and emergency, for example, and that I travel with, not with the backup, but with the hardware wallet. And in there I'll store, I don't know, $5,000 or whatever. And then I have another wallet, which is like a vault, and it's a multi-sig wallet. So it requires a threshold of signatures in order to be able to spend the money. So it's much more secure, but it's much more difficult as well to spend from. It's just like a life insurance. You're not going to buy your groceries with your life insurance. And I basically store different amounts of money in different wallets, and some I take with me when I travel or wherever I am, and some I don't. So I think the more options we have, the better. And this is an approach that I would recommend to anyone who's starting their Bitcoin journey, because basically you can have different Bitcoin wallets for different purposes. So it's on you as the architect of your own security, as a sovereign individual, to build your own Bitcoin setup that fits your needs.
If I may add to that, because we're talking about wallets right now, but if we also talk about sovereign digital nomads, sovereignty is also like a scale from like maybe nothing, full custodial solutions, to running your own node, for example, which I used to do before being a nomad. It was great. Like I played with Lightning channels in 2018, 2019, and verify all your transactions and do Lightning payments from your node in El Salvador. But that node was running at my parents' basement. So every time I stopped losing access, I like, can you plug it in and out, please? And I needed their help to have access to my own Lightning channels, which is a sovereign way, but I still needed like support from my parents to like just make sure it's running again. So right now I don't run a node anymore because I cannot bring it. You have to plug it in here and there. So it's also, being a nomad doesn't allow you to be fully sovereign, even if you want to, because of the physical location that you need to be in.
Yeah, if I can add one more thing, if you're going to be traveling with some of your Bitcoin stuff, the only thing you don't want to do is to travel with metal backups, at least on planes, because it triggers alarms and all of that. Like people like TSA will ask what it is, and this is something you don't want to do. I tried, I was successful, but I don't recommend it.
A question too, sorry, I don't want to be the host, but every time when I'm crossing a border and I see the form where you have to declare if you bring more than $10,000 in cash, it's like, yeah, I got a key with me, but like the key is only giving me access to the money, so it's not the money itself, so I guess I'm fine. But then what if you also bring like a hard disk with you with all the UTXOs and like the blockchain history, because you bring both the key and the coins? What's allowed?
I think that's a huge gray area.
I'm not asking for advice, but I think thinking about it is a lot.
I mean, I would say that, you know, Bitcoin is not dollars, so it doesn't apply in that sense.
I think we just have too many fiat rules that don't work in the Bitcoin era anymore.
Yeah.
They need to update the rules, because the UTXO set is just information. It's just an arrangement of bits on a hard disk. And I don't think it should qualify as money, especially since there's already there's already thousands of copies of that in the United States or in this other country that you're going to. So you're not really moving information from one place to another because the information is already everywhere. So I can't speak to what the rules are necessarily, but
I'm not asking for like legal financial advice.
I know.
Just putting the question
I know
out.
You're not, but others might, and like I can only say what I think should be the case, and Best
Yeah,
not.
no legal advice allowed today, but yeah, I completely agree. I think it should be outside of like the jurisdictions or the mainstream, I guess, rules. Bitcoin is outside of that, and luckily there's nothing they can really do to enforce it. So, Quentin, I know that you're thinking about something, so I want to let you answer the question as well, and then we'll move over to the last one.
Oh yeah, I just wanted to say that it depends what you define, like how do you define cash? And yeah, if you own the keys, well, what you travel with is keys. So I would say it doesn't it doesn't fit the definition of cash. But again, not legal advice. At least personally, when I go through borders, I don't say, hey, I have this hardware wallet with that much Bitcoin on it.
Yeah, great question though, Arnold. Thank you for that. So last question, and just thinking about anyone in the audience who might be thinking or might want to in the future pursue a more mobile lifestyle, maybe traveling, maybe going fully nomad, what would you say is their first step that they can take today towards that goal?
Well, for me, it was a bit similar, and I know this simple, it doesn't apply to everyone. I graduated and I really wanted to work in Bitcoin, so I really accepted that I wouldn't be earning a full-time salary right away working for Bitcoin and in Bitcoin. So I accepted that. I just wanted it to work, and it's something that takes a lot of time. At least it took for me to go from like finding a little hobby that turns into a passion, that turns into something that gives you like a little bit of money, and it grew over time, and you get your space and name in the Bitcoin space as well. So I think the biggest recommendation to everyone is like get started.
Nice. Curtis, you want to go next?
I think people who are interested in this kind of lifestyle need to ask themselves where their comfort zone is. Are they comfortable with uncertainty? I often have people asking me, like, where are you going to sleep tonight? And I have to answer the question, I don't know, because I don't know, right? And that sort of uncertainty I'm extremely comfortable with, but others might not be. There's also, on the same topic of how big your comfort zone is, like, yeah, just how big is it? Like, what kind of experiences are you willing to have that are kind of out of the norm? And then also, how sovereign do you want to be? Ask yourself, how sovereign do you want to be? Because you can travel with your keys, you can travel with just a Lightning node, you can run a full node, you can run a full node or a prune node in the cloud, which is also an option, maybe for you.
That doesn't feel sovereign to me. Like,
exactly.
I want more than what I can, and that's why I'm just not even doing a cloud node.
Degrees of sovereignty, here we go, right? So like you could still inspect your own transactions on a VPS in a much more private way than if you were to just use mempool.space or a blockchain explorer. So there are degrees of sovereignty, and you have to ask yourself, how sovereign do you want to be, and what does your setup look like? Do you have a van? Are you living out of a suitcase? Can you run a node in a suitcase? Probably not, right? Nope. But you can in a van. But then the question comes up, like, how much power do you have? I recently went through a situation where I tried to not only run a node, but also spin up an entire home server in my van, only to find out that on a bright sunny day with a lot of solar power, it sucks your power dry. The sun goes down, and overnight you go from 100% battery to 0. And so you have to think about all the infrastructure upgrades that you have to do just to be more sovereign, even more broadly than just with Bitcoin.
Thank you very much, Curtis. And we'll finish up with Quentin.
Thank you. Yeah, to me, the objective is to be sovereign. It's to be free. So it depends how you picture yourself as being free. For some people, it's going to be being a nomad. For other people, it will be having a ranch or a farm and not moving from there, but having a ton of land and spending time there with their family or something. So I guess in my case, what I would say is find what is freedom to you and seek that. And it's an open question for myself as well. Like I'm looking for that sovereignty. I'm looking for that freedom, and I'm still looking. I'm looking every day, and every year I reassess, and I'm trying to get closer to that ideal, to that goal. And I think the only thing that I think we can have in common here is money. We need sovereign money. We need Bitcoin in order to be able to be fully sovereign. And the rest is up to anyone's personal goal, I would say.
Thank you very much, Curtis, Quentin, and Arnold. Thank you so much for your time today and for sharing about your experience and knowledge. Thank you for everybody listening. Yeah, we'll pass the mic along again to Zach. Thank you again.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.